Hi, I'm Heather Devine. I hope when you look back on your life, you see because you only go once.
Hello, hello, hello. I am here with my lovely co host, Eileen Grimes, and this is You Only Go Once. Today, we're here with a wonderful guest. Eileen, kick us off.
Thanks, Cheryl. So today we have Heather Devine, who wears many hats in her nearly 40th trip around the sun. She's a mom, a daughter, a friend, a wife, a business owner, an executive director of People Spread Love, and an eternal optimist of humanity. I can say that Heather has been someone in my life. I'm adding to your bio here, but has been someone in my life that though we met on an app in a auditory only way, has inspired me to keep doing things that spread love and kindness and connection. And I've just been so amazed by the work that she does and just the human that she is. And it was one of the first things I wanted to do was once we started this podcast to bring Heather on. So I am so, so glad to have you here today, my friend. Heather, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. It's exciting.
Yeah. So we've got a busy night. We were just talking about momming. I'm running behind. I was just getting back from first soccer practice ever for my daughter. So we ran a few minutes behind because she was having a great time. So that's that. And we'll be making this work, and that's what we do. So it's always a balance of things, and sometimes one thing balances more than the other. So um Heather, gosh, I don't even know, where do I want to kick us off? I would love for you to let's just talk about People Spread Love first, because I think that there's so much there and where that got started and what it is that kind of also leads into who you are as a person. So can you share with us what People Spread Love is, how it started, and sort of where it's going now?
Absolutely. So, oh gosh, I'll start from the beginning. In the summer of 2015, I remember sitting in my car sobbing, listening to NPR when I heard the news that a white supremacist attended a Bible study at African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. The man shot and killed 9 Black people with a lethal weapon. I just remember sobbing in my car and asking the world, why would somebody do something like this? Why is there so much hate in the world? How can this possibly be something that somebody would feel like they needed to take someone's life, let alone 9 people that were there in a very heart-centered way in a church praising God. So to me, that just felt like absolute agony. Just empathizing, even though these people, I don't know any of them. I didn't know those that were lost, and even though we were thousands of miles away, I felt pain. I felt, excuse me, I felt compassion, and I felt that community suffering, and that really significant loss, that it felt so palpable. It felt like it was my family. Um, and so I felt this pulling because I was already in the parking lot of the grocery store. So I was going to go pick up groceries for me and my soon to be husband. And I was drawn to, quite literally, was drawn to, because I felt like a tug on my shirt, to go to the greeting card section of the grocery store. And I remember this was pre-kid, so I remember having a lot of time on my hands. And I stood in front of the greeting card section and pulled um, greeting cards that were filled with compassion and love, and they were centered around Christianity because this is what happened in a Christian church. And I felt really called to like really hold space in my heart for people that I don't know, and just letting the congregation know that somebody far away that doesn't know them cares really deeply for their loss. So as I was driving home that night, I was called, I felt like of this correction came through, because I was like, okay, me and my, fiance can sign these. And then I was immediately corrected, like, no, you need to ask the whole community to sign them. And as soon as I contacted everybody that I knew in the Valley, both colleagues, friends, volunteer peers, I got an immediate yes response from every single person that I contacted. They would meet me publicly. They would go to my place of business. They'd go to my home. They would sign these cards, fill them with love and compassion, and just with all this heart, letting them know they're not alone. And at that moment, I realized there was something there. And so I filled the box. It was a medium-sized box. And in the return address portion, wrote people spread love. I didn't think about it. It just kind of flew. It kind of it flowed through me. It was as if like, okay, this is what I need to do right now. Like, this is my purpose. This is one of my many hats that I'll wear on this earth. And I don't know if it's going to go beyond this moment. But lo and behold, it's been eight years. And the moment of compassion and empathy that we need to share with each other, reminding each other that we're not alone, has not changed. And that was the moment when People Spread Love was born. And I feel really humbled for the opportunity to be able to share that with both of you today, because even though it's been 8 years, it still feels really fresh. It still feels really new, because based on the name of this project, and the whole soul of the project is to serve the community and for people to spread love. It's an invitation for people in the community to step up and show compassion and empathy for others.
And it's, I mean, well, you have to go to the website. There's so many different opportunities for people, for anyone who wants to take part in this. You can be anywhere and do this work. You can be an ambassador of love, which I love the name of that too. And or if there's someone that that could use love in whatever way, shape, or form that is, wherever they are in the time of their lives, that they could just use an extra, someone reaching out to say, I see you, you exist, you matter. It's such a beautiful, beautiful program that you have now. And this is now a nonprofit organization too, from everything that came from that really, really deep place. I think, one of the things that really touched me too, from your story and just hearing this, is that, I think some of us sometimes get caught in that trap of, I just experienced something very, very deeply, and it was very difficult. And, I understand there are traumatic responses for different things. And you then took the next step to say, well, what can I do? How can I move the needle? How can I start? Even if it's one small thing, even if it's a greeting card, right? It's one small thing. It's one small step. And I just think that, taking that next step to say, I have the ability to do something that opposes what this was, to try to make this world a better place, is such an incredible thought and idea. And it's a revolutionary idea, right? To take a step against that and to bring back everything with love. So every time I hear your story, it just gives me goosebumps, and I know how much it means to you and what this organization does. Have you always been like that? Have you always done things where it's like, I can't just stop and sit in this, I need to move forward? Or is that something that you've learned over time to take action when action is needed?
I think that's a really great question. And the answer is no. When I was a lot younger, I lived a pretty selfish life. I think that with our children, typically we try to instill in them, this philanthropic nature. We want them to donate their time. So whether that's money or energy. One of the things growing up, I was a Girl Scout. I was very much volunteer savvy. My mom was always shoving me into programs to like be a good human, and I also feel like I had this like, well, how is it going to benefit me? Like all that questioning came up. Like I knew this was a feel good thing, but how is this aligned with me and where I need to, how I need to exist in the world?
Mm.
And one of the things that was really pivotal for me was when I was a young adult, probably in my early 20s. And I realized after, going to college and getting out of college, and I was working and going home and working and going home and working and going out to happy hour and going out to eat and just spending so much money on just indulging and enjoying my social life. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly will never criticize anybody for enjoying their lives, however that looks for them. But I realized something. I'm like, but I'm not serving anybody right now. Like it felt like it was so self-serving that I was like, I need to volunteer my time. And so I started volunteering my time for United Methodist Family Services in Richmond, Virginia, when I lived there, just prior to meeting my husband in the city. And I remember that reckoning, like, I need to offer up my time. It's the most valuable thing that we have, right? It's this time and the energy. And so what I would do is first thing in the morning, a few times a week, would volunteer my time to come to an art class and volunteer my time to an art teacher who's since passed away from cancer.
Mm.
She ended up dying from bone cancer. And I knew she was diagnosed with cancer. And at that time, she had breast cancer. And she needed extra help. She couldn't lift boxes. She couldn't really help kids in that same way.
Sure.
And we were in a really special classroom with children who had autism. And they're in different spectrums of autism. And they just needed someone to sit there and make art with them and just like be joyful and kind to each other. And I could offer that. I was in my early 20s and I was like, I've got a lot of energy. Like, and I love making art. Like,
Yeah.
and so to me, it just was like a no-brainer. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally help, and I'll sit and make art with you guys. And United Methodist Family Services is an organization that takes in children that have been troubled in the home, whether they've been abused or just have some behavioral things that they need extra help with. And this was a place. It was a campus too, so the children lived on campus. And so I would go be with the children and make art and just hold space for them. We would listen to music, we would talk about movies, and we would just like relate to each other. And it felt really natural. Like, I just want to be with people. Like, children are cool. Like,
Yeah.
And it's just, and at that time, that just felt like a natural progression for me. And so I knew there was like little seeds. I feel like we all have little seeds of like a trail of like, how do you want to show up in your life? Like, why don't we sprinkle these experiences in there, and then you can take value where you see fit.
Yeah.
And I feel so grateful for that opportunity. I feel because I'm sure we'll go into this too, but People Spread Love has events called Meet and Makes, where we meet and we make together. So crafting, music, writing notes of love together. It's this communal space where we're together. There's no confrontation, there's no negativity. As a matter of fact, I've been doing this for 8 years. And when we hold space together, people even police themselves. If someone starts gossiping about someone, you'll hear some 20 somethings say, oh, we're here to spread love today. Like, we don't have time for that. It's just like very like policing each other gently. Like, we're here for heart-centered work. We're here for heart work. Like, and I like to use the word heart work instead of hard work. It's heart work. And we're holding space together and we're being together. And I think that most people in this world find confrontation and divisiveness in their lives and turmoil when they don't feel connection. And I feel like love opens up and again creates that invitation for people to just show up at the table, like, come as you are, let's hold space together. And it's like, maybe it sounds a little too kumbaya for some people, but I've seen it work, and it works, and it's something people are aching for. They want to find meaning, they want to find purpose, like, how can I show up? And I still think that volunteer work at the soup kitchen, like volunteer work in any capacity you can think of, just getting involved with your kids' school, anything that you can think of and how you resonate with, like, do that thing, like whatever that is. People Spread Love, or also nickname it, coin it TSL. TSL resonates so much with me because it's like, not only is it something that I've seen grow up like a child, but I've like seen what it can do to like really support community. And I feel so deeply passionate about this work because I know that it works. So.
Yeah. How often do you run those events? Are they like a monthly thing or how often do they happen?
It's kind of sporadic. Usually the summers we have more events. And before I
Sure.
became a mom, it was a little bit a little bit easier to coordinate calendars and stuff. But my son absolutely loves going to meet and makes. He helps host with me. He makes sure everyone's taken care of. He's very nurturing in that way, and he loves to make art. And you should
Mm.
see him. I should show you some things he made.
Yes,
Um,
please.
but I will in a moment.
Yeah.
But he makes the most beautiful, like anytime he makes art, he always incorporates hearts. And he goes, "Mommy, you can use this to spread love." Like he's always collecting like
Oh,
love spreading cards, and they're just so kind and loving. And you just put some such good, kind energy in it, and you can tell like he understands this work. He was born to understand it, and he resonates so much in it. So.
yeah. And there it's so cool too, because I know there's a few things that I've seen also with People Spread Love. There's opportunities to submit drawings for the different cards that you have. So tell us a little bit about, if someone does want to join, like your starter packs and things like that people can kind of use to generate ideas if they don't necessarily feel like they're the most creative or things like that. There is something that can kind of support them in being able to still take part in this.
So what what we actually started 2 years now is called the PSL Starter Kit program. And what we do is we offer 200 kits per year um, to the community, whoever wants to participate, and it's card making supply. So it's never claims to be an art kit, right? Because we're not, it's more important to like ignite curiosity in writing notes of love. It's got directions on how to spread love if people spread love. The other thing too is that it's not necessary that you go to our website, although I encourage everyone listening to go to our website at peoplespreadlove.com and click on the Who Needs Love, and you'll see real time who needs love right now. There are people all over the country and the world that need to be poured into for varied circumstances and varied reasons. And so all of them could use some love. So yeah, but what I also want to encourage with PSL is that it's not important that you pour into who needs love list that's on our website. You can pour love into anybody, whether it be your congregation, your circle of friends, your family, however you want to show up in your community. It is completely up to you. It's really an invitation to make this a habit, because I think the more we make this the norm, we normalize writing notes of love to people, kindness and empathy for others will catch on, and then people will be like, I want to keep doing this, like whatever that looks like. If it's not a note of love, but it's like checking on a friend, make sure they're okay, and or any number of things you can think of, donating to the homeless or bringing food to a food pantry, like whatever that looks like. It's really about checking on each other, because when we think about it, yes, we're a collection of communities. So I'm in a town in Idaho, in the border of Idaho and Wyoming. So we call it Whiteahoe, right? And we're in the mountains, so we have a small community here. But not only is PSL in this community, but it spans all over the country, because it's not about just one community, which is where I'm like, we spark interest in breaking down those barriers, breaking down those invisible boundaries of what community means. Because it doesn't serve us to hold those boundaries, right? It's better when we're collectively together and normalizing this heart-centered stuff. So sorry, I went into a little tangent there.
No, I love it.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So hopefully that made sense with the starter kit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think it's also very poignant that we're talking to you on the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, because there's still so much pain that resonates from that event. I know where I was when it happened. I'm sure that there are other people listening to this know exactly where they were. I will also say that that event that you talked about that triggered everything, I remember sitting at my workspace, and when they were going through the names of the victims, the one that struck me the most was Cynthia Graham Hurd. She was a branch manager for the Charleston County Public Library System.
Hmm.
And I don't know why, but to think that a librarian who had given her time and space and love to help people learn and grow was taken away from us in such a senseless act. It really struck me so hard that day. And I wish I had known you during that time, because I definitely would have wanted to do something. And I think that's the challenge, right? Is that oftentimes people have, we talk a lot of times, the news focuses on the worst of humanity. And I don't think we do enough of looking at the best of humanity. And I think your space in particular looks at the best of humanity. And I'm so glad that People Spread Love exists, because there's a lot of people out there, obviously, that need the love and support, whether it's an individual moment, whether it is, a natural weather catastrophe, whether it's a shooting, whether it's just, people just feeling alone. Those letters, I can tell you, mean a lot. I love getting snail mail, like even if it's an email, but I also love like that art of the handwritten letter.
Yeah.
I just think that that is just an amazing piece of that. Yeah, I just, thank you so much for creating this organization. If you could look back, because you talked about being an empathetic child, but also looking at like what's in it for me and things like that, right? If you could go back now and talk to your younger self, like what advice would you give to her?
I would tell her a lot, but I think I would give her a really big hug because I get a little emotional for a second because for the longest time, I'm still overcoming this as an adult, is that I wasn't smart enough.
Mm.
That I wasn't smart. I couldn't possibly, like, just my little voice in my head that I've had since I was a little girl was, you're not smart enough. You don't retain information the way that other people do. There's something wrong with you. You couldn't possibly rise to the occasion to do anything worthwhile. That was always the chatter in my head. And I know that's all completely BS right now. So, the reason being is that I felt something that was so important, a message so clear. And I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. Like I experience life like I just think that there's something bigger than me. And I think that we all have a purpose. Like we all have something, and perhaps we have several purposes, which is also fine. I think that there's a multitude of things you can do to show up in your life. And I think what felt so clear as a bell is that I needed to do something at that moment, sitting in my car. And perhaps that moment has been poking at me prior to that moment, but that moment I stuck. It was something that I just heard loud and clear. And so, what I would say to myself is, Heather, you are worthy, you are smart, you are intuitive. Just listen to the messages that are coming through. And yes, there's going to be sprinkled in doubt, but I also think that's part of the journey. I don't think that I would have heard this message come so clearly. I don't think I would have risen to the occasion of proving other people wrong, that I was smart. So I don't know if I would change anything. I think I would just, now I can heal. I feel like we still have the opportunity to like heal and send good energy to our younger selves now, even if we're not younger. And just saying like, hey, it's okay, girl. Like you got this. Like just do you. Do what you gotta do. Now I have to admit, like I'm learning constantly. So there's never a moment where I'm like, I finished. I'm good, like cleaning my hands of this. Life is so exploratory and it's so exciting. There's so much to learn. There's so many people in the universe to know. I mean, the fact that I have this incredible human that I get to share my life with, my son, he's my greatest teacher. He teaches me patience. He teaches me kindness. He teaches me to just play. My goodness, like as an adult, you're taught to be so dang serious, figure out what you want to do for a living. Sorry, my dog is biting her toenails. She's such a weirdo. So if you hear this
I don't hear
weird sound,
anything.
it's not me. Oh, okay. I'm
We're
like, what is
good.
that? Sadie, you're freaking me out. Sorry, my just drove. It's like a big, like it's so annoying. Anyway, so my all that being said is that like there's an opportunity to do a lot of healing for your younger self. And I think that we all have the opportunity to do that. Just, you know, create some understanding and level of self-awareness and love and bring it inward.
Yeah, I'm in this program right now I'm using it for some of the, internal work and things like that I'm going to be able to apply in some of the coaching things that I do and life in general. But it's been beautiful because we've been talking about wisdom, but wisdom through four different lenses. One being cognitive wisdom, which is what is traditionally in school, right? That's the stuff that you memorize from the books. That's the stuff that it's great. Like we still need all of those things, and we learn from science and we learn from history and dates and math and all of those things. And then there's three other lenses. There is the embodiment lens, which is the actual knowing of ourselves, this wisdom of ourselves. And that includes that intuitive nature that we have and listening to our guts and really just understanding what that piece means. And then there's sacred wisdom, which is knowing of that which has come before us and the things that connect us into the earth and to, all the world around us. And then there's also the relational wisdom, which I think is fascinating because that is the connection. Like it's a lot of what you're doing is the connection between people.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't get taught. You're not,
Mm-mm.
you don't sit in a classroom and learn that is actually just as valuable and just as beneficial. And the world needs all four of those lenses, in order to survive as a species, in order for us to really exist together and co-create and make this world what we want it to be. We have to have all these pieces, but we emphasize very heavily here, especially in sort of the US, that cognitive wisdom is like then you're smart. If you know that one, then you're smart. And that's not for like art doesn't come from cognitive smart, these things that are these expressions that are so healing for the world when we have them. It's just not as emphasized here. And I want to give your little Heather a hug also. And same, as my little Eileen and all the little non-cognitive people that have these other expressions that need to be shared. And anyway, it just, it's helpful to like for me having that mindset now and understanding of these different sort of approaches to what wisdom and smarts can be. And you're definitely doing all of those. So I'm grateful that you've kept going.
And thank you, Eileen. It's so important to talk these things through because, raising a kid, as you know, is you want to like make it right, for your little self
Yeah.
and then for your kid's self, right?
Yeah.
You want them to also like you want to heal through loving them and nurturing them and their strengths. And I think that and not that we should have all this pressure to be perfect, because that's not what I mean. It's more of like, okay, I'm acknowledging that this is something you really resonate in. How can I show up for you? Because my parents did show up for me. They really did see that I learned differently.
Yeah.
And they really, really did. And I think they did the best they could at the time to nurture that. And the public schools only could do so much as far as like nurturing certain parts of ourselves. The education system is limited, as you know. So I think that like having a support system at home and having people who know you and can support you in your strengths is super important. I know a lot of book smart people. I mean, there was one time, and I won't name names. There's one time I was um, telling a friend or an acquaintance, at the time, like, yeah, I'm gonna go, she's like, what are you doing this weekend? And I said, I'm volunteering. And she goes, well, why would you volunteer if you don't get paid? And I'm like, well, that's what volunteer work is. And it was just like this, how do we explain volunteering your time is not an exchange of
Right.
money? Like,
Yeah.
because I don't think everything needs to be exchanges of money. And yes, I know we work in a world that money is important. We use it, we spend money. Again, I think money is energy exchange, right?
Right.
But I don't necessarily think it's everything. And it shouldn't be the only motivator on why we wake up in the morning. There's so much more to life than just going to work. So, and that's probably what I would, probably the greatest wisdom that I can share is that there is more than work. Um, I also work, but I love the juiciness of like sinking my teeth into something else that has more meaning, that has deeper meaning that I feel excited about. And I think that that's something that I wish for everybody on this planet to like identify with, that can find that thing, whatever that thing is, that you're like, hey, I'm taking my strengths and I'm putting them over here because it matters, because it impacts people. And I think that, finding that is it's a real gift. It's really, really quite wonderful.
Agreed. Yeah, that really hit me. I think because we live, and I don't know if it's just, I work in corporate America. Most of us here have worked in corporate America, I'm assuming. And it's really about the transactions. And it's so nice to have something where there isn't a transaction or an expectation of a transaction involved. And I think that's the reason why Eileen and I do the podcast, just because we love to be able to provide a space for people to tell their stories. And plus, we as storytellers also love to hear really grand stories. So for us, we get to enjoy this, but for us, it's really about providing the space to tell stories, and it goes beyond that transactional philosophy. So I love that you sought something that is beyond the work, the 9 to 5. That's wonderful.
I think, I know that not everybody has the option to do that though. So I don't want to be naive and think that people have extra time to volunteer,
Right.
that have extra time to fit in or have a support system to do that. Some single parents don't have that. Some people just are working from sunrise to sunset. And I will never, ever compare my privileged life to somebody else's and assuming they have extra time to kill. But I do know that there is deeper meaning, and the deeper meaning may be, it, it can look different for everybody. And I think that just using our imagination, right? Using our imagination, being imaginative as adults is so important for our mental health. It's so important to figure out, okay, where can I reside that holds significant meaning? Like, what does that look like for me? Because I don't think what I do, my volunteer time, should ever take away time from people you love. It shouldn't take away time from the priorities you set for yourself in your life and your love. You should be able to make adjustments. I remember when I brought Elliot home, my son Elliot, from the hospital. I actually reached out to all my volunteers in the valley that I live in, and they said, hey, I have a newborn baby. I can't hold events. If you'd like to hold an event, come pick up supplies from my house. And people did. It was great. It was wonderful. I mean, I was able to still go to the post office and mail letters out, but I couldn't hold public events the way that I could before, because you're pretty homebound and you're just taking care of the baby and you're healing. And it's important to have that closeness and that precious space to be with them. And so being able to set boundaries for myself has been hard. I'm not gonna lie. I want to do this full time. And at the moment it's not the right timing. And to be perfectly honest, as an ED, I'm not getting paid. And it's not even about the pay. I mean, that's not the motivation for me. It's not like I'm getting paid so much money. I'm not getting paid anything. And I still so much appreciate this work. It really speaks to my soul and why I'm here. So that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And like I said, I mean, ever since I found out about it, I try to encourage others to participate in it as well. When we were talking about some of that too, just, even if you're at work, so you, like Cheryl and I were talking about before, we started this. I think some of those things can happen at work too, right? It can be during the day job in which you are doing things, and that can be encouraging those that are newer into the organization and showing them the ropes, looking down and helping, lend a hand down to those who are below, to mentor, to do those kind of things too. It doesn't have to be outside of those working hours in which you are giving of your time. I think there are ways to incorporate some of that as well, because I get it. Like, when you're working two jobs and are just to be able to sleep is something that is a necessity at that point. So it doesn't have to be, Heather, you've done an amazing job. And it doesn't have to be creating a whole nonprofit. So,
No,
there are
it
different
really
ways to do
doesn't.
it.
No, absolutely not. And I totally realize that that's not the journey for everybody. And no,
Yeah,
nor should any, not, nor would I recommend everybody doing it, right? It may not
sure.
be for you. You don't want to deal with that amount of paperwork or stress, or I get it. But I do know that there's so many amazing organizations
Yeah.
that are doing such beautiful work. And if you resonate with any of those
Yeah.
that are already doing some work that you resonate in, then hallelujah. Like, that's that's great, because it's like, what I really like about People Spread Love is that you can pick it up or put it down anytime you want. There's no pressure to do it. You do it when you can find time to do it. Maybe you want to do it around the holidays as like a family event.
Right.
Like, it's totally up to you. It should fit with your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it's about. It's about accessibility. It's about being able to show up for community. If this is how you resonate in connecting with community, I say, yeah, like, let's do it. I can show you how to do it. It's very, in my mind, very simple, but I think that some people need a walkthrough. They need to be reminded, like, hey, I can do something. And some of it is self-motivating, right? Like, it is that self-motivation. You just, take the initiative. You can even look at, if you go to our website, you can look at the testimonials and you can see how it's impacted people's lives. So that's the measurable. And that's when okay, this is something here. You can see pictures of the cards. And so, yeah, and it goes, so what's really exciting, you guys, and I'll totally share this too, is not only does somebody initially receive notes of love, but then they see that it comes from People Spread Love, the organization People Spread Love. And then they say to themselves, well, I can do it too. And
Mm-hmm.
then they continue to spread love. So it doesn't stop with just one person. It continues on and on, which is what it was supposed to do. It's supposed to be something that doesn't rely on me, which is why it's not called Heather Spreads Love.
Right.
It's called People Spread Love. It's supposed to be about you guys. It's nothing to do with me. It's not about the ego. It's not about somebody miraculously saving the day and swooping in with a bunch of greeting cards.
Right.
But as simple as it is to write a note of love to somebody, it's not, the act of doing it is not original at all, right? But it's the whole act of doing it and the receiving in it and that energy exchange that's really, really, truly, there's something there. And I think that that's really cool to like be part of that journey and that exploration with the community and seeing how people are affected by it. And how people are realizing like they can also elect themselves. You go to our website and you can click on request love, and you request love for yourself. You can request love for someone else. And the reason, like, I had actually recently an event I had this weekend. I had a volunteer that said, "I'm so sorry I couldn't show up. I'm going through some hard times and I could really use some love. So can you add me to the Who Needs Love list?" And I told her, "Absolutely, we're going to add you." Um, and she's like, "I just know I need to be poured into right now." And before that, another event I had, a gentleman was sitting down for the first time with PSLs, never heard of us, and was writing notes of love for a little boy. And he goes, "I could really use some love." And he kind of giggled, but he really meant it. And one of his best friends was sitting next to him, and she goes, "He could use some love." And so she requested love for him. because it's like, it's so important. It doesn't have to be, I'm suffering severely from this disease, or maybe I'm going through divorce, or maybe I need to just be acknowledged that I'm amazing, and maybe that it's not so tragic, and it could be anything. And I think that often we forget how humanness is very fluid, and we're all facing something, some kind of adversity, and we need to be acknowledged. And I think that it is simple as that. Sometimes we just need to be seen.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. I
Mm.
mean, I'm not going to go into all of it, but this weekend was National Suicide Prevention Weekend or day, and just as you're talking about asking for love, asking to be poured into, and how, like, just even me sitting here being like, oh gosh, I could never volunteer myself for that. Why? Why can't? Why do I feel the shame of asking to be poured into? Like, what is it that do I feel selfish for asking for that? Like, it just, like, to think about why it would feel wrong of me to ask to be poured into and to ask for love. I mean, that's got to be, it's an epidemic, I assume, in people craving that, but not being able to ask for it. So, oh my gosh, I don't know, that just really hit me hard with a lot of things going on in life right now. But yeah, I mean, even, you know what, ask for it, put your name in there. We'll put your name in there for you if you need it, but it's okay if you need a little something right now, and you were amazing and worthy of having that love. So yeah, I love.
And you've really hit on something, Eileen, because I think a lot of us have a hard time, especially adults, with worthiness,
Mm.
because we have to unpack a lot of our worth, or what we perceive as worthy of anything, worthy of love, worthy of acknowledgement that we're alive, that and again, I think if you're living and breathing, you should be acknowledged. And I think that you can still acknowledge people that aren't, but I think living here in this moment and can receive love is so important. And I will have to tell you, so we have, as an organization, have sent love to people that are in the public eye. We've also sent love to people that are not. But what's really cool is that lately I've been sharing, and well, I've been writing notes of love to Patch Adams. If you're familiar with Patch Adams.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been
Amazing.
exchanging letters with me personally, to people spread love. He wrote me back and he asked more about the organization, and he goes, "That's incredible that you're doing this kind of work." And so it's just really cool to like share our story and talk to him more intimately through letter writing. Because if you write him, you guys, you will get a letter back, hands down. He'll always write you back. And what's so incredible is that he's like, "It was so fulfilling to receive notes of love from your volunteers. Like, how sweet to be acknowledged that I do something in the world." And it's like, yeah, we need it. Like,
Wow.
because, you know, I mean, we could go tomorrow, right? So,
Yeah.
Right.
being acknowledged and feeling love, like, sorry, I'm gonna cry.
No.
It really there's something there. And I think if we just acknowledge people with a social media post or something in their a comment on the excuse me, and like an obit, right? After you pass away, and we have say all the kindest, loving things to people after they're gone.
Yeah.
It's like we have lost an opportunity to say, "I see you now the way
Yeah.
that you are." Sorry.
This is why I love you, Heather. I'm just gonna, I love you. I love you. I do.
I
I
love
think
you
you're
too.
such a special gift to this world, truly.
You're very sweet. And I think the thing is like there's something there. Like humans
Mm.
forget like how special they are. Every single one of us.
Mhm.
Um, are really special. We're all unique. We bring something special to someone's lives. Um, and it's just really important to like unlock that, because as adults, we lose our sense of self. We lose it because an ego gets in the way. We want to look cool. We want to look hip, whatever it
Mhm.
looks like. We want to do it right. We don't want to get it wrong. And maybe in our older years, or even our deathbed, we're like, oh, I didn't have to put myself through that
Mm.
torment of criticizing
Right.
myself every time
Hmm.
that I made a decision. I could have just been okay with and been loving to myself, because that is the longest relationship you'll ever have, is with yourself. And the thing is we got to pour into ourselves, like affirmations, sharing your gratitude, sharing your wins, having this opportunity to say, hey, little me, or hey, future me, because there's a future me
Mhm.
website. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. I'm sure,
No. Mm-mm.
sure. Oh, it's pretty great. So this is another really great tool that I just love. But you can go, I think it's Future Me. Yeah. So futureme.org. You can write a letter to your future self. So you can write a letter to yourself September 11th, 2024, and write specifically a letter to yourself. And it'll do is it'll send it to you in an email, reminding yourself of whatever you want to tell yourself in the future. And I think it's pretty clever. I've done that several years in a row, and I haven't done it in a couple years. But I think I might start again to remind myself you're on the right track, you
Yeah, I
know.
love that.
Yeah, right? Why not? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. There's so many tools at our fingertips, right? Like there's so many
Yeah.
things. And let me share this one thing with you while I put on spaghetti sauce on the stove. So hold on one second.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But the one thing that I find, pretty incredible, that I started a couple of years ago with my family, I think will be 3 years this year, is I have a memories jar. We call it Divine Memories because that's my last name.
Oh my
And
gosh.
what we do is we have little sheets of paper, scrap paper, and we write memories. So we write silly things our son does, silly moments, and we write it in these little shreds of paper, these little scrap pieces of paper. We date them too, so we don't forget special things that happen, because we tend to, as human beings, as part of our survival mechanism, is that we focus on the things that went wrong. We don't
Mm.
focus on the good. And so often what happens is we fixate on what went wrong. I got hurt, that this loss happened. And not that doesn't matter, but it's more important to focus on what good things did happen. How did just even small things, right? Um, so for example, oh gosh, my son said something funny. He was always saying something funny. But we've got moments in there that we share, and it's just so incredible how we miss out on life when we focus on the stuff that's wrong.
Mm.
But what I notice is that at during New Year's, we'll take out all of the memories that have been folded in there, and my husband will write something, my son will write something, and I will write something, and we'll put them in order from which they happened. And then we'll tape them inside of this journal we have in our bookcase, and it becomes this memory journal that we've collected
Oh my gosh.
over the whole year. And it becomes this opportunity to reflect on how beautiful life is together, how beautiful life is, even if there are some negativity in there, right? If you lost a job, and in my case, I got hurt on Easter and tore my ACL, and now I needed surgery. And so I've been rehabbing my knee, but it's still a gift, because what it has taught me is to stand still, to sit, to
Mm.
paint. So I've been painting more, and I've just been more focused on getting my body to where it needs to be, so I can maybe I needed to stand still for that many months. Maybe I needed to sit down and take a load off. I don't know what that lesson was, but there's so much level of importance embedded in life, and we miss it if we fixate on what's wrong. And I think that what's so incredible, as a family, we're learning to focus on good stuff and focus on the joys of life. And I think that focusing on those silly things is pretty cool. So it's a tool I use with my family, and it seems to be working really well. And it helps us reflect on the year with joy.
That's such an incredible idea. Cheryl, do you see now why I really wanted to talk with Heather tonight?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Heather, I hope you continue to shine your humanity and kindness and heart-centered work on the universe, because we need it. We need it in the worst way possible. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I have so much to think about. Now I have to go look at this Future Me site because I'm so like, what? This is amazing. And I love that not only have your site is going to be chock full of resources for people. So what we're hoping to do for our podcast is share those resources.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind, I know you've mentioned it a couple times, but how do people connect with you and your organization?
Oh, yeah. So you can visit our website at peoplespreadlove.com and poke around the site. Contact me at heather@peoplespreadlove.com. I'll always answer your emails and get back to you really promptly. As a matter of fact, this Thursday, we've got a virtual meeting, and I'm not sure if this podcast will be available by Thursday, and I don't want to put any unneeded pressure on you ladies. What we do is we offer monthly Zoom calls with our volunteers. Sorry about that, Cheryl.
That's okay.
So we actually host a virtual meeting every month to help, and it's usually the third Thursday of every month. This Thursday or this Friday is an exception. I'll be out of town on Friday, so I switched it to this Thursday. But it's an opportunity for potential volunteers of People Spread Love and current volunteers to learn more about the organization and really just like listen to our volunteer coordinator, Jackie, and myself, um, and talk about People Spread Love and how it fits into your life. So it's a great opportunity, an hour of our time. We just volunteer an hour a month to talk to people, because sometimes people, like I mentioned before, don't want to do it wrong, and they have a harder time using their imagination. And People Spread Love is really about making it work and fit in your life. And some people need that extra guided hand. So we do that as well.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So our last question is really this this is happening question that is about like, it's really about the things that are on your heart, and boy, oh boy, my dear, you wear your heart on your sleeve so much, and it's a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful thing. But it is finding those things and things that we want to pursue or feel in our heart that we need to continue pursuing over the next course of our lives. So, what does that look like for you or for People Spread Love? That's sort of what's happening next. Is it a continuation of the amazing work that you're doing? But yeah, is there anything that you're feeling that just is coming up for you that is definitely going to be happening, or that you feel like needs to happen within your life to continue living it to its fullest?
Oh my goodness. So there's a lot of things that are on my heart that I want to see happen with People Spread Love. But one that comes up really strongly, just asking myself, because I like to ask myself, like, what's up, girl? Like, what's going on in here? And before I got on the call with you guys, I did a journal entry, and it felt so good to write it all on paper, writing down some vulnerabilities, writing down gratitude, bringing up to speed where I'm at. Because there's a lot of heaviness. There's a lot going on in the world, and I feel a lot of empathy for human suffering. And I want to show up. And so oftentimes I get super scrambly because I want to live in a certain way, but I also have this beautiful, beautiful life with my family, and that I want to be present for. And truth be told, I'd love to be able to like say, hey, this is what we're doing with PSL. PSL volunteers, please take it up. Like, here's the baton. Now it's your turn, kind of thing. And I want to do that so bad, because in my mind, I want to be part of everything. And I can't possibly, not with the growth that I want to see happen with PSL. I want to see people normalizing this kind of behavior and compassion and empathy for others. I want it to be something that is a global phenomenon, something that people want to do on their own and will do on their own, and they do it with heart. And I think there's that. But I think from a human level, just without the hats on, I just want to be able to like sit and write a journal entry,
Mm.
do some self-reflecting, having a
Mhm.
moment to put down my damn phone. And I apologize if I'm not supposed
No,
to
you're
use the
totally
curse
fine.
words.
You're very welcome.
But I just want to put my cell phone down. I like just want to put it down. I want to put the email away. I don't want to work when I shouldn't be working. I want to be able to set boundaries for myself. I want to
Mhm.
be like, there's time for everything in okay, there's time for everything, but it's not important that we do it all right now. And I'm a right now
Mhm.
person. If you look at you're welcome to find me in my personal profile, a doer of stuff. That's how it's spelled, a
Mhm.
doer of stuff. It's because I'm a doer. I'm always doing something, but I also need to have moments of being
Mhm.
myself and not being able to put on a role. I don't have to do anything. I could just reside. I can just exist, and that should be
Mhm.
enough.
That's a huge message that a lot of people need to hear,
Mhm.
including myself. So
Mhm.
I appreciate I thanks Cheryl. I got it. I appreciate that reminder. So
Mhm.
thank you. I love you, friend. I do. I do. I do.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Oh, Heather, thank you so much for your time. On behalf of Eileen and myself, this is You Only Go Once. Thanks everyone for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.